there. It's more like a long, enduring, duller but reliable friendship. It's always on the receptor. It's calming. There aren't the highs and lows of being on a narcotic, a street narcotic. So it's much better for the brain, number one. People begin to stabilize almost immediately. It also gives people, because there isn't the euphoric rush, and yet there is not the punishment of withdrawal. People remember instantly what it was like to be well and not to be suffering the lifestyle of an addicted person. So it's almost like a fast forward, and it's a hope producer. People are able to function and have normal lives, go to work, sleep, begin to eat normally again, begin to relate to people in a more normal way, in every way. Again, it's not the answer. It's a medication. It's a temporary support. This is how I view it anyway, and this is controversial, although I view it as a temporary support while a person is doing all the other work they need to do to put together a life that is working for them, that actually supports their sobriety. In other words, they've got relationships that are working in their lives and healthy relationships. They've got an occupation that they're happy with. They're pursuing educational goals. They're back on track. They're going somewhere.
What is some of the success and improvements that you've seen with some of the people that you've worked with that have been on Suboxone? Have you been able to see the difference in progress in them? And how soon were you able, and were they able, and did they report feeling better or a difference in improved quality of life?
I think there's an immediate improved quality of life that people experience. As far as the how long it is before someone is better, it's a varied question. With some rarer people who, it's not very common for people in the early phases of an addiction to get help quickly, but those people often can quickly recover and do quite well. There are more commonly people, when they reach the point where they're desperate enough in their addiction to come for help, are sicker and have broken down in a number of ways more, and it takes longer to help them put their life together. However, I mean, there are incredible stories of people who I've treated I've had a couple of medical students who have been trapped in an opiate addiction, heroin addiction, or other opiate forms. Even oral ones can be pretty intense too, whose lives were derailed, who got their self-esteem back, believed in themselves, began to open up again socially, and create a way back onto their medical career path.
Now you bring up a couple medical students that you've worked with,
Mm-hmm.
and can we talk briefly about some of the people that you've worked with in different professions?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of times what prevents people from seeking treatment, we
Mm-hmm.
know that 23 million Americans suffer with addiction, yet less than 10% seek and receive treatment. And I think a big part of that is the stigma, not necessarily that the treatment's not available, because obviously it is.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the professions of people that you've worked with beyond even the medical student? Because opiate addiction isn't restricted to the stereotyped junkie
Mm-hmm.
with a needle sticking out of their arm.
Oh, no, absolutely not. For whatever reason, my practice seems to have attracted mostly younger people. We certainly don't treat only exclusively younger people. So I would say that a lot of the people are, young, either college age people, but also a number of them are people working for the state and six-figure income jobs. I don't think I've treated anyone in the legal profession for opiate addiction. As I said, medical upcomings, certainly.
One of the benefits that I know you've told me about your practice is the confidentiality, the private setting. So tell me a little bit about, and we're
Mhm.
going to show some pictures actually of some of the office space and some of the meeting rooms. So
Good.
tell me what you believe makes your practice different, and what are some of the benefits that if you were someone seeking
Mhm.
the services that you yourself provide, why would someone call Dr. Urshan?
Well, it's small, and we like it that way. It's a very small private practice. It is off the grid. It's not a high volume, high pressure. There are, because we keep our numbers low, there's a sense of, I think, privacy in going there. It is quite a private setting. We work hard to keep it comfortable and very non-institutional, but all of these things, because it is a small physical setting, it really limits us in terms of numbers, but that, I think, turns out to make what we're doing a lot more effective. I think the small size and keeping it that way it's a goal of ours. We don't really want to explode our numbers at all. I think we'd lose a lot of what we are, what we can do because of the privacy.
Now, how could someone get in touch with you, and what hours are you available? Do you currently have openings? If someone were interested in contacting you, how would someone get a hold of you? And you mentioned
Mhm.
some professionals that you've worked with as clients. A lot of people have the 9 to 5 job.
Mhm.
They don't want to take the time off of work because they don't want their employer to know that they're going to a doctor's appointment.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit about also some of the benefits of being in a private practice, confidential, and some of the unique hours that you offer for services to meet people's special needs.
Mm. We do, of course, have evening hours. It's almost a necessity to do that. Our groups and individual sessions can be and are often held in the evening, and can and are often also scheduled on the weekends, which does help people with the confidential aspect and preserving family time and a normal routine.
Any final thoughts you would have for perhaps someone watching the interview? It could be a family member, it could be someone struggling themselves firsthand with an opiate addiction. Maybe somebody's questioning, well, maybe I'm not as bad as so-and-so, or I can't be an addict because I have a prescription for hydrocodone.
Hmm.
So what advice and what words would you give to someone watching, either that may be questioning their own possible addiction and need for treatment with services like yourself,
Hmm.
or perhaps someone that's watching and saying, hey, maybe my son, maybe my daughter, my mother, father, brother, sister
Hmm.
could benefit from this service?
That's you're touching on it's such a sensitive topic, and I think denial is such a huge part of addiction. I guess I would say is if you're wondering, if it's crossed your mind that maybe it would be hard for you to actually stop taking a prescribed medication, come for an assessment. This is not a practice where you're liable to suffer any kind of public exposure by coming here. We have no one who comes to this practice is mandated. We don't have that, and so you're not going to be in a situation of having to work with other people who are, don't want to be there. Come, let us assess you, meet us, and let's figure it out together.
And what's a phone number somebody could call to get in touch with your practice?
518-877-5050.
Thank you.